Welcome to the deep dive. We're so glad you could join us today. We actually have a pretty unique mission for this session.
We do. Very unique.
Because often, we take a stack of articles, maybe a dense historical biography or a newly published scientific paper, and we distill those core insights for you.
Right.
But today, we are pointing our lens at an artifact of the modern internet. Something you likely scroll past on a regular basis without giving it a second thought.
I mean, we all do it.
Exactly. We're looking at a Wikipedia Disambiguation page. Specifically, we've pulled the disambiguation page for the word and the acronym PAT, or P-A-T.
It almost sounds like a prank at first glance, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
Setting out to analyze a routing page that's designed purely for internet navigation. But when you look closely at the source material, this specific page transforms into something else entirely. It acts as this profound, albeit totally accidental, cross-section of culture, science, geography, and history.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because what we're really looking at here is a bizarre, genuinely fascinating slice of human categorization.
Yeah.
This single page is essentially a map of what humans have deemed important enough to document, all anchored by a single, simple, three-letter combination.
What's fascinating here is how disambiguation pages act as a map of human priorities. The architecture of the internet needs to know exactly what you mean when you type those three letters into a search bar.
Right, because there's no context in a search bar.
Exactly. Because human language relies heavily on efficiency, we have assigned wildly different, totally unrelated meanings to the exact same sound and spelling. It highlights the philosophical reality of how dependent our collective knowledge is on context.
Without that surrounding framework, those three letters are meaningless.
Utterly meaningless. But embedded in the right framework, they can signify literally everything from a beloved cartoon dog to a complex, potentially life-threatening medical event.
Let's start by looking at the pop culture, media, and human element side of things. The sheer variety of fictional characters named Pat it's a perfect entry point.
It really is.
Looking at classic literature, the source lists Pat the Gardener, who is actually a guinea pig, from Lewis Carroll's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland.
I had completely forgotten about the guinea pig.
Right. And then jumping forward to modern and, frankly, absurd animation, you have Jake the dog's daughter-in-law in Adventure Time, whose name is also Pat.
And keeping with the canine theme, there is Lucky's dad in the globally massive kids show Bluey, another Pat.
The cultural footprint really spans the globe quite thoroughly.
It does.
Moving over to British television, you have Postman Pat. An absolute icon of children's media in the UK. The source also points to the titular character in the animated show Pat the Dog, as well as the classic Czech stop-motion animated series Pat and Matt.
And we can't forget American late-night television.
Oh, of course.
There is the famous, intentionally androgynous character simply named Pat from Saturday Night Live, a character whose entire comedic premise relied on the ambiguity of the name itself.
Which is so fitting for a disambiguation page.
Right. And stepping slightly outside of fictional characters and into broader media and art, the page catalogs a 1957 music album by Pat Boone, simply titled Pat.
Nice and straightforward.
Very. And down in South America, there is a Bolivian television network that goes by the acronym PAT, broadcasting to the entire country under those three letters.
As you step into the real world, Pat is most commonly understood as a diminutive for the given names. Patrick or Patricia.
Sure, but the source material highlights two incredibly specific historical figures who are forever immortalized under this exact three-letter banner on Wikipedia.
This part is wild to me.
The first is Narcisse Théophile Patouillard. He was a highly regarded French pharmacist and mycologist who lived from 1854 to 1926.
In the rigorous world of botany and mycology, when a scientist discovers and classifies a new fungus, their name gets permanently attached to it as an author citation.
A permanent botanical abbreviation.
Right, so Narcisse Théophile Patouillard's standard botanical abbreviation, his permanent scientific legacy attached to the species he described over his entire lifetime, is literally just Pat.
Just Pat.
You spend decades painstakingly studying fungi, and biological history simply remembers you as Pat.
It's amazing. And then, jumping forward a century and across the globe, the page also lists Jenny Pat.
Right.
Born in Hong Kong in 1981, she became a prominent Chinese-Canadian international art dealer, a visual artist, and a television personality before her passing in 2014.
I really want you, our listener, to just pause and consider the bizarre nature of this semantic overlap. Think about how a single syllable can simultaneously represent a cartoon dog from an Australian kids show, a 19th century French fungus expert, and a contemporary international art dealer.
It's a striking testament to how heavily we recycle sounds and letters to mean completely different things.
And the complexity only deepens when we shift our focus to global geography and human organization.
The geographical section of this source material is basically a global scavenger hunt.
It really is. I mean, if you travel to Slovakia, you will find a village called Patince, which is officially known in Hungarian as Pat.
If you find yourself in Quebec, Canada, you might cross the Pat River.
The name Pat also designates specific places in Hungary, in Iran, and even a neighborhood in Jerusalem.
And in a completely different localized usage, Pat serves as the colloquial nickname for the city of Port Arthur in Texas.
The geographical spread is certainly vast, but the way we utilize Pat as an acronym for complex human organizations is where the deep need for digital disambiguation becomes truly obvious.
Definitely.
Now, before we list these organizations, we have a very crucial rule we need to apply regarding one of the entries on this list.
Yes, we do.
The source material notes an organization called the Pakistan Awami Tehreek. We must explicitly state that we are impartially reporting the existence of this political party exactly as it's listed in the source, taking no sides and endorsing no viewpoints, simply conveying the information as categorized.
That is an important clarification, and it provides a perfect contrast to the other organizations that share this exact same acronym. Because right below an international political party on the list, the source places the Pickleball Association Tasmania.
The juxtaposition is just brilliant. You jump straight from international politics to the governing body of Tasmanian pickleball.
It's incredible, and the organizational list keeps going. PT was the acronym for the Polish Telegraphic Agency, serving as the official news agency of Poland through incredibly turbulent historical periods from 1918 to 1991.
It stands for the Port Authority of Thailand, managing the nation's maritime infrastructure.
It was also the acronym for a former British trade union called the Professional Association of Teachers, which eventually changed its name to Voice.
To add another layer of international complexity, in Ukraine, Pat But functions as a legal entity designation.
Right. It stands for, and part of my pronunciation here, Hizhino Ujermers, which translates to a type of Ukrainian public company.
So it's essentially the equivalent of a PLC or public limited company in the United Kingdom.
Exactly. If you are reading a Ukrainian business document, PAT isn't a specific organization itself. It dictates the corporate structure and legal framework of an organization.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because if the geographical and organizational lists felt dense, the pivot into the world of science, technology, engineering, and medicine is on another level entirely.
It really is crowded real estate.
The STEM fields use acronyms to compress massive amounts of complex information. Let's start with medicine and biology.
The medical applications alone require absolute precision because confusing these terms could have serious consequences. For instance, the page lists paroxysmal atrial tachycardia.
Which is quite a mouthful.
It is. The source includes a vital defining detail about this condition. It is an episode of heart arrhythmia that begins and ends abruptly.
Oh, okay.
Paroxysmal implies a sudden outburst, and tachycardia refers to a rapid heart rate originating in the upper chambers. The abruptness is what separates it from other cardiovascular issues.
Beyond heart conditions, PID is used for an array of distinct diagnostic tools and patient assessments. If a doctor in an emergency department needs a fast metric to screen a patient for alcohol-related problems, they might administer the Paddington alcohol test.
Right. And in cardiovascular health, there is a non-invasive diagnostic measure called peripheral arterial tone, which assesses the health of blood vessels.
Moving into medical imaging, you have photoacoustic tomography.
This is a fascinating technique. It utilizes a combination of laser light and an ultrasound scan to peek under the skin and map biological tissues.
And branching out into psychological testing, there is the picture arrangement test. That evaluates a person's cognitive organization by having them sequence images to tell a logical story.
So think about that. If you are a medical professional, P-to-T could be a sudden heart rhythm problem, an alcohol screening, a blood vessel measurement, a laser ultrasound technique, or a psychological evaluation.
That is an enormous amount of pressure placed purely on the context of the conversation.
It is, and the reliance on acronyms extends heavily into biochemistry and pharmaceutical manufacturing as well. Biologists use P to refer to several different complex enzymes.
Right, like phosphonothrusine acetyltransferase.
Yes. Also pseudoterpene acetyltransferase and putrescine aminotransferase. The reason biochemists do this is highly practical. Biochemistry is full of massive, multisyllable molecular names.
If researchers didn't use acronyms like PAT, a single scientific paper would be overwhelmingly long and almost unreadable.
Exactly. And in pharmaceutical manufacturing, PA stands for Process Analytical Technology. This is a comprehensive framework used for designing, analyzing, and controlling the manufacturing process to ensure the final drugs are of high quality.
Computing and general technology might actually surpass medicine in their reliance on this acronym, though.
Oh, easy.
If you are reading a computer science manual, PRT could refer to the Process Analysis Toolkit. In software development, this is essentially a model checker.
Right, a specialized piece of software that rigorously tests other software to guarantee it won't crash or behave unpredictably before it goes live.
And if you're digging into computer hardware, it could be the page attribute table.
Conceptually, this is used in Lion 86 and by 8664 memory caching. It is essentially a method for organizing the computer's short-term memory disk so it can find information faster.
Or it could stand for Intel's Performance Acceleration Technology.
The acronym is heavily utilized in the architecture of networking and data transmission, too. Chord address translation is a specific type of network address translation that allows multiple devices on a local network to be mapped to a single public IP address.
Which is how your home router likely works.
Exactly. In digital video broadcasting, specifically within an MPEG transport stream, it stands for the Program Association Table. I like to think of it like a restaurant menu for your digital television receiver, telling the TV which video and audio packets belong together so the picture and sound sync up.
That's a great way to put it. And then there's a tool that thousands of software developers use every single day, the personal access token. This acts as a highly secure alternative to using a traditional password for system authentication.
And we haven't even touched on the broader, more industrial technologies listed in the source.
The industrial applications are fascinating. Archival scientists use the photographic activity test, which is an official ISO standard test to evaluate storage materials and ensure they won't chemically degrade historical photographs over time.
In the United Kingdom, you have portable appliance testing, a common and rigorously documented electrical safety test for everyday appliances.
And then there is the powder actuated tool. This sounds incredibly technical, like a piece of futuristic weaponry from a science fiction novel.
It really does.
But it is actually just the formal construction terminology for a nail gun.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you start to see exactly why different scientific and technical fields constantly reuse the same acronyms. Human language relies heavily on abbreviation to speed up communication among specialized experts.
Right.
When a network engineer says PTAT, every other network engineer in the room immediately knows they mean port address translation. When an archivist says it, they mean the photographic activity test.
The acronym isn't meant to be universally understood by the general public.
No, it is meant to be a high-speed shortcut within a highly specific, fenced-off intellectual domain. The disambiguation page is the rare, chaotic place where all these fenced-off domains suddenly crash into each other.
It is the equivalent of putting a network engineer, an archivist, a construction worker holding a nail gun, and a heart surgeon in the exact same room and asking them to have a conversation about PTAT.
Complete semantic chaos.
Which leads us to our final major categories from the source, text, transportation, and daily life.
Transportation infrastructure relies heavily on three-letter codes for ticketing and logistics, making it a natural fit for this discussion.
If you're traveling by train, you might pass through the Patricroft railway station in Manchester, England. Or you might find yourself at the Patterson railway station in Melbourne, Australia.
Both of these stations use the official standardized station code, PA.
If you are taking the bus in Pennsylvania, you might use the Pittsburgh Regional Transit System, which is notable because it was formerly known as Port Authority Transit, retaining the legacy acronym PAT.
And if you're flying internationally, the official IATA airport code for the J. Prakash Narayan Airport in Patna, India is PAT.
The final few eclectic items on this Wikipedia list really demonstrate how deeply the word is embedded in daily life, leisure activities, and niche cultural practices.
They really do.
In American football, millions of people track the PAT every single Sunday. The point after touchdown.
Moving to textiles, there is pat silk, which is a specific, highly valued variety of silk.
If you are sitting at a poker table, you might be dealt a pat hand. This means you have a hand that is already complete and strong enough that you don't need to draw any new cards.
You're relying on the psychology of standing pat to win the round.
The acronym also appears prominently in international food regulation and consumer protection.
Yes. In Italy, if you see the letters PAT on a regional food product, it stands for Prodotti Agroalimentari Tradizionali.
Which is an official government approval meant to protect traditional Italian regional foods from cheap knockoffs, ensuring authenticity.
And finally, rounding out the daily life section, there is expat, which is short for expatriate, referring to a person temporarily or permanently residing in a country other than their native one.
It is an incredibly diverse catalog of human endeavor.
It really is a cross-section of everything.
So what does this all mean? We started this session by stating we were going to use a mundane Wikipedia disambiguation page to explore the immense breadth of human knowledge. Looking back at everything we have covered, from 19th century mycology to Ukrainian corporate structures to the mechanics of a nail gun, the premise really holds up.
It does. Human knowledge is vast, but it is deeply and necessarily categorized. We rely entirely on invisible walls of context to keep our communication from collapsing into total confusion.
The source material leaves us with one final, incredibly heavy-hitting item that truly anchors that point. Nestled at the very bottom of the disambiguation page, in the See Also section, is a link to the equation I equals PAT.
Right, I equals PT. Let's break down exactly what that formula represents.
Okay.
It is a mathematical sociological equation representing the impact of human activity on the environment.
So the I stands for the environmental impact itself.
Yes. The P is population, the A is affluence, which represents the level of consumption per capita, and the T is technology, representing the environmental impact per unit of consumption.
It is a profound, sweeping formula designed by scientists to calculate the literal burden humanity places on the Earth.
You have a mathematical formula calculating the environmental fate of the entire planet sitting directly next to an acronym for Tasmanian pickleball, an Italian cheese certification, and a poker strategy.
It's almost poetic.
This raises an important question. As we move into an era where artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms are constantly scraping the internet to build future knowledge bases, how will machines navigate this chaotic human habit of giving one three-letter combination 100 different meanings?
That's a great point.
We rely on human intuition to know that a doctor talking about paye isn't referring to a nail gun. But as we build systems that read our data without human context, our relentless desire to abbreviate everything might become our biggest communication hurdle.
That is a phenomenal concept to leave you with. As we increasingly rely on automated systems to parse our language, the invisible context we take for granted becomes a massive puzzle. I want you to really mull that over.
The next time you see a simple acronym at your workplace, on a news chyron, or just while scrolling online, think twice about it. What else could it mean? What specific fenced-off domain of human knowledge are you briefly peering into? Thank you for joining us on this wide-ranging deep dive. We will catch you next time.